Of old for Derrick Rose. He had 30 points last night, ladies and gentlemen. He was 12 of 24 for shooting. He looked really good, aggressive from the start. Stephen A., let me ask you the question. As we're entering this all-star break, and we talk about Derrick Rose, it's always a matter of whether or not we feel if he stays healthy. It's always an if with him, and his health is always the issue. Do you trust him to be able to keep up this type of performance, like what we saw from last night in the second half?
I can't answer that way because I'm not a doctor. The fact is that he has to be healthy.
Yeah.
If the man is healthy, we always have to qualify it with that.
Him.
But there's no problem in doing so because there's legitimacy to that. The man came into this season having played 10 games in 2 years. 10 games out of 164 games. He missed. Why? Because of those knees. And the reality, and not one knee, both knees. So when you look at his explosiveness, what he was as a league MVP, he, along with Russell Westbrook, were considered the most athletic point guards in the history of the NBA. He got hurt. So when he got hurt, before he got hurt, when they had nobody on offense but him, this brother was guiding you to conference finals appearances. So it stands to reason that now that you've got Pau Gasol, who's averaging 18 and 12, to go along with Joakim Noah, who was first-team All-NBA last year, to add a seasoned veteran who can shoot like a Mike Dunleavy, to a Jimmy Butler who's ascended to another level, all-star caliber status, going from averaging 13 a game to 20 a game. It stands to reason, and it's not beyond the realms of comprehension, that if Derrick Rose is healthy, and he can give you what he gave you last night, and we all know he can when he's healthy, that Chicago is the city you will have to go through in the East if you want to get to the NBA Finals. It is just that simple. Now, when we look at, I will say this, for the record, let me say this and get this out of the way right now. I believe the Cleveland Cavaliers will probably win it all next year once Anderson Varejao comes back, because now that you have Timothy Mozgov, I'm going to tell y'all a zip it. Don't let me say it again. All right? Listen and learn. Timothy Mozgov was not on this squad. It was just Anderson Varejao. If you got Anderson Varejao with a Timothy Mozgov, with the elevation of Tristan Thompson, okay, who's got really, and Tristan Thompson, who's really got a lot of promise, with the team you already have in place, it's a different ball game. But when the game gets more physical and it slows down, and you've got to play that brand of basketball, I think Cleveland is a year away from winning it all. They can still come out of the East because we don't know about Derrick Rose's health. We don't know about Atlanta, who's the money player to deliver the goods for me. Same thing with Washington and Toronto. So you're going to look at Cleveland unless Derrick Rose is healthy. But next year is the year to be talking about Cleveland. Right now, to me, they're playing with house money. It's the Chicago Bulls that are on the clock, because I think if Chicago passes up the opportunity to win this year, they may never win it.
Yep. Okay, back to your opening statement about what you expect from Derrick Rose going forward for the rest of this year. Can you trust him? And you said, I don't know, I'm not a doctor. Do you mean you're not an orthopedic surgeon or a psychiatrist?
An orthopedic.
Seriously. Seriously.
See, no. That's a legitimate question on Skip's part, because, again, psychologically, we have some concerns about Derrick Rose. I believe that if Derrick Rose goes into the playoffs healthy, he'll go lights out, because he's not worried. He's just trying to get through the season. That's what he's fighting against.
I agree.
But if he goes into the postseason healthy, all bets are off. Guns blazing.
Okay, all I know for sure about the Chicago Bulls that you picked before the season to win the East, they will go as far as Derrick Rose carries them. That's what I believe. In the end, it's all about Derrick Rose. And all I know for sure about last night was that is the first time in 3 years I've sat back watching him on television and I said, that's the Derrick Rose I remember. That was the MVP last night. And that's the first time I would have said that. Now, do I trust that going forward? I need to see a little bit more. But that guy last night, my God, he was doing it all. He was making jumpers and runners. He was exploding to the glass, making shots off the glass. Isn't that guy?
That's the guy that I thought was going to win the MVP
I know.
this year.
You did. You said that before the year. He recently went through a 5-game stretch, just the last 3 weeks, in which Derrick Rose had only 16 assists to 26 turnovers. And during that stretch, he shot 7 for 40 from the three-point line.
Awful.
That's 17.5%. That was just awful basketball. And he was really hurting his basketball team. Last night, he looked like a floor general for the first time this year, where he was actually running the offense. He had 7 assists to only 2 turnovers. He only took 2 threes. He missed both of them, but he's not a three-point shooter to start with. So I loved what I saw, but I'm going to need to see quite a bit more of that before I say, okay, you're right, they're going to win the
Two things
East.
to peel from last night's game. Number one, up until the last waning minutes, which was basically garbage time because Chicago had sealed the deal, Derrick Rose had gone 3 games without committing 1 turnover.
Yeah.
That's number
You're right.
one. So that's something to point in the right direction. Number 2, when you sit there and you look at him, obviously when you think about the Chicago Bulls, Paul Gasol and to a lesser degree, Derrick Rose are somewhat defensive liabilities. You sacrifice what they're not going to give you defensively because of what they can give you offensively.
Yep.
This kid Snell that came off the
Yeah,
bench and
he was
placed a
good.
Butler defended LeBron the whole game.
With a lot of help.
With a
They were
lot of
doubling
help,
him
but he
up.
did a good job.
He did.
He did a good job. If he, along with Dunleavy, along with Aaron Brooks, are able to give you what they're capable of giving you, then you've got something special there. Tom Thibodeau can work this out. So I look at it from the perspective that obviously when you think about Derrick Rose, again, it comes down to him psychologically getting through the regular season physically. Once he does that, I'm not concerned about it at all. If the playoffs begin with Derrick Rose healthy, look out.
Yeah. I want to echo your sentiments about Tony Snell. I did not see him coming. This is
Right.
his second year out of New Mexico.
Yeah.
I think he was the 20th pick in the first round.
They've been bringing him
And
along
listen,
nicely.
And just the way Cleveland added via trade, obviously Mozgov, JR, Shumpert, all of a sudden Tony Snell he's capable of 20, 25, he had 22 last night, and he can defend. So that's a new X factor for them, and I'm starting to like the Bulls more because of him and their second line. Their second unit is pretty good with Aaron Brooks and Mirotic. They were causing problems last night for Cleveland.
All right, LeBron James, unfortunately, with the Bulls had outscored the Cavaliers by 27 points with LeBron James on the court. Not looking like the best player of the planet, but we're all entitled to have a bad day. Coming up next, we're going to talk about
31 points, a bad day.
yeah, it's a
8
little-
turnovers.
I wish the New York Knicks had more bad days.
Yeah, and the Lakers.
If that's a bad day.
And the Lakers. Folks, we're talking about the Eastern Conference. We want to know at home, who wins the East? Can you reply to hashtag East Winner? Who will win the East in your opinion? We will reveal the results a little later on in the show. When we come back, though, we're talking about the Western Conference. It's deep in the West. Who comes out of the West? We don't know. The fellas will weigh in. We need you here to weigh in as well. Give us a round of applause. Give yourself a round of applause. First Take Live. It's an NBA All-Star Week. End of action. We'll be right back. Right, Chelsea Restaurant and Bryant Park.